Right now on Morning News Now, set to vote. The House of Representatives is poised to pass a bill today, forcing the Justice Department to release all records related to Jeffrey Epstein. This comes after President Trump reversed his stance over the weekend and called on Republicans to pass it. He said he has nothing to hide and continues to deflect attention towards Democrats.
I believe that some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them.
The latest ahead from Washington as the White House looks to move past the scandal. Southern California continues to feel the impact of heavy rain and flash flooding in the region, damaging buildings and flooding roadways with mud. The West Coast is not out of the woods yet, as more rain is in the forecast today. We'll have the latest when we check in with meteorologist Angie Lassman. New concerns: a revamped plan to place mental health professionals in Washington, D.C. public schools based on need is facing some pushback. Critics say the plan doesn't provide enough support across all schools in the district. We'll break down the implications it could have on students. And ready for takeoff, Uber is preparing to launch its own air taxis that would bring passengers to the friendly skies. We'll give you an exclusive look at the first of its kind rideshare and where this new form of transportation is being tested. I mean, that is the Jetsons.
No kidding. The bar for being a driver is a little higher than it is now.
You'd hope, right?
Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin this morning on Capitol Hill with the House expected to pass a bipartisan bill today that would force the Justice Department to release all of its files on the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Many more Republicans could be voting for the bill after a major reversal from President Trump this week. First, he told House Republicans to vote yes. He now says he'll sign the bill if it makes it to his desk. Yesterday, the ranking Democrat on the House Rules Committee slammed Republicans for, quote, stonewalling the release of the files, saying they waited till the president gave them permission to change their minds. But Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson came to the president's defense, saying they both shared concerns about the impact releasing the files could have on Epstein's victims.
We know what this is about. Trump gave you all permission. Last week, he was calling people into the Situation Room to try to kill the release of the files. But he knows he failed, and so now, finally, we get a last-minute attempt to try to save face. Guess what? I'll believe it when I see it.
He's never had anything to hide. He and I had the same concern, that we wanted to ensure that victims of these heinous crimes are completely protected from disclosure, those who don't want their names to be out there. And I'm not sure the discharge does that, and that's part of the problem.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with the latest. So, Julie, walk us through the timing of today's vote. How's it going to work?
Hey guys, good morning. Well, this is kind of interesting because of the sheer volume of House Republicans and Democrats that are expected to back this discharge petition, the vote that eventually comes on the floor today, it is being passed by what's known as this wonky rule in the House known as under suspension. It means that at least 2/3 of the House are ready to put up the votes to pass this piece of legislation, so it doesn't need to jump through any of the procedural hoops and rules that we normally see. That's significant because it means that a majority of the House is going to support it, even though just 218 signed that discharge petition that forced Speaker Johnson to put this on the floor, triggering this vote to force the DOJ to release these Epstein files if and when it also makes its way through the Senate. So we're going to see this happen sometime this afternoon around 3 p.m., a really significant vote, an overwhelming vote expected as well.
Julie, so while the president's expressing support now for this bill, he's also saying that even if everything is released, his critics will never be satisfied. He compared it to the release of the files related to the assassinations of JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. How are lawmakers on both sides of the aisle responding to President Trump shifting his position on this, and what do you make about what he mentioned there?
Yeah, I asked so many House Republicans and Democrats about his shifting stances last night when the House was voting. Democrats are saying that this is because the president saw the writing on the wall. He knew that this is the way the vote was going to unfold. There's nothing he could have done to stop this vote from taking place, although he did hold some meetings in the hours before this discharge petition was finalized last week, trying to convince some of the Republican women who signed on not to support it. When that didn't work, we saw the president a couple of days later come out and say, you know what, just release the files. files. The House should vote on it. But when I talked to some Republicans who just days ago were saying that this Epstein saga is a hoax, of course, repeating some of the very comments we heard from the president saying they would never vote for this. One of them, including Congressman Troy Nehls that I talked to last night, said he's now voting for it. I asked him why. Take a listen.
Well, why are you voting for it then, sir?
Everybody's voting for it.
So you're voting for it because everyone's voting for it.
Everybody's going to vote for it.
Why not vote against it if you think it's a hoax?
Everybody's going to vote for it.
But why not do this months ago?
Why not do it 4 years ago? Under Joe Biden, you people didn't talk about it.
Sir,
you guys are sick.
But, sir,
you need counseling.
So you heard his impassioned reaction there. He was defending the president. I'll tell you, when it comes to the Senate, we do expect an overwhelming vote there if and when it makes it to the floor. Leader Schumer, the top Democrat, calling for that to happen.
Julie doing a good job of pressing the congressman there. All right, so we are still seeing the fallout from a batch of thousands of emails the House Oversight Committee released last week. Some of them involve former Treasury, the president of Harvard University, Larry Summers, who did keep in touch with Epstein. Tell us more about how the release of these emails has impacted him and whether we're hearing any response.
Yeah, well, this is one of those names that nobody really knew had this close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. This came out of the tranche of emails that the House Oversight Committee was able to obtain from the Epstein estate. That's different than the files that we expect to come out from the Department of Justice. Larry Summers apologizing for his relationship with Epstein. I should note he's not accused of any wrongdoing, but what we saw in the correspondence between the two men is that they spoke for a number of years, even after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of sex abuse. And so that's significant. Larry Summers saying he's stepping aside from his role at Harvard University, but that's only coming after he had a lot of public pressure, including from some senators, to do so.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much.
Well, for more on this, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Monica, good morning. So, I mean, the big question, we've been asking this since yesterday, right, is just why the president changed his mind. Do we have any further insight on that? And also, if you set aside the congressional vote, is there anything stopping the president from instructing the Justice Department to release these documents?
And that is such a key question here. And the answer to that is if the president did decide that he wanted to order this release, he could. But there are some questions about whether the Department of Justice could do so in a quick fashion, because here that might need to be redacted. Information that's sensitive. There's information that was related to grand jury testimony, which we know was tied up and held up in the courts. But as you mentioned in your previous conversation, as with Martin Luther King Jr. and JFK and those assassinations, there is a process here by which the president could set this in motion. Instead, I think politically, guys, and this is the key takeaway, the president saw where this was going and decided that he couldn't continue to be an obstacle to it, that he needed to kind of get on board with where Republicans were headed here in this bipartisan effort for more information. So they are deciding to go that route because then the president can say, look, I supported this, I backed it, and now let's please put this behind us. That's essentially what he said yesterday. But he also admitted that even if they do this, it might not be enough to satisfy his own MAGA base that has been clamoring for more information. So this is really a political challenge, even though we know there are also these legal steps that they need to go through and these congressional steps that we're going to start to see today.
Monica, let's talk about the president's day ahead. Another big story. He's set to welcome Saudi Arabia's crown prince, MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, to the White House today. This is going to be his first trip to the U.S. since the 2018 murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at a Saudi consulate in Istanbul. We know a U.S. intelligence report from 2021 found that the Saudi crown prince approved the operation to capture or kill Khashoggi. For the Trump administration, is all of that forgotten? What can we expect today at the White House?
Well, today you're really going to see what amounts to a working visit, and it's almost everything but a state dinner. There will be an Oval Office component, there will be a bilateral lunch, and then later in the evening there will be a black tie dinner for the Crown Prince. And certainly today you can expect, according to the White House, some defense and economic agreements. And also the president said that the U.S. is going to be selling Saudi Arabia F-35 fighter jets. So we'll expect more details on that, in addition to discussions on everything from AI to other potential areas of agreement and other things that they can work on. And remember that President Trump really wants Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords. It's unclear whether that is something that is going to happen. There are questions on both sides and in the region about whether that will actually materialize. But the president says that's one of his main goals for today's visit. So to really answer your question here, guys, this is the Crown Prince re-entering the diplomatic fold in a significant way, given everything you laid out about the last few years.
Monica, a lot of news to cover. We also want to ask you about the fact that a federal judge is warning prosecutors that their case against former FBI Director James Comey could be in jeopardy. This is from a court ruling. The judge says the government's handling of the case is raising, quote, genuine issues of misconduct. Walk us through this ruling and where the case goes from here.
Yeah, this is all about the appointment of Lindsay Halligan, who is the prosecutor here, and whether she made some serious errors, according to the judge. Errors so serious that essentially the case could be thrown out because of some of the things she said when she was instructing to the grand jury and when she was talking about these grand jury proceedings. So we know that this judge really issued a pretty scathing assessment of what she did here. Remember, this is somebody who didn't have any kind of criminal experience in prosecuting any kind of case like this before the president asked her to take this on. So next, we know that another judge will assess this in the coming weeks to see where that can proceed. And it's possible, again, this could all go away because of some of those mistakes, potentially.
Monica Alba, thanks as always.
In other news out of Washington, the acting administrator of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, better known as FEMA, has stepped down. He was only on the job for 6 months. Two officials from the Trump administration confirmed to NBC News that David Richardson resigned from his role on Monday. Richardson quickly came under scrutiny this year for his slow response to the deadly July floods in Texas. More than 130 people were killed there. He could not be reached for 24 hours during the height of the disaster. Later, in a contentious hearing on Capitol Hill, he revealed he was on vacation as the floods hit. Richardson had no prior experience in emergency management before taking the job. He said now that hurricane season is nearly over, he can leave for other opportunities. FEMA's current chief of staff, Karen Evans, will become the next acting administrator starting on December 1st.
Well, President Trump's immigration crackdown in North Carolina is continuing. Federal agents arrived in Charlotte over the weekend, where some arrests turned violent as protesters push back on what's been dubbed Operation Charlotte's Web. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has the latest details.
Federal agents ramping up their immigration crackdown in Charlotte. The Department of Homeland Security says Border Patrol has arrested more than 130 people since Saturday. They are criminals with a history of assault, DUIs, and gang affiliation. DHS not specifying how many of those detained have criminal histories.
Too many times we're finding that some very, very disreputable individuals are seeking work in people's homes.
Across the city, encounters turning angry and chaotic. Officers breaking this man's car window. Confrontations turning violent at times. HS says one officer was injured when a man drove a van into a law enforcement SUV. 24-year-old citizen Miguel Martinez now charged with felony assault. One witness telling NBC News more than 20 Border Patrol agents showed up at a community center for refugee and immigrant children. No children were present.
This is not making us safer. It's stoking fear and dividing our community.
It's scary. Some residents say their citizenship isn't enough to feel safe. Jonathan Ocampo's parents immigrated here from Colombia. He showed us the passport he now carries everywhere.
It's sad that, I'm not going on an international trip or anything, but I have to carry this.
Hispanic-owned businesses closing their doors to avoid becoming targets. Manolo's Bakery shuttered for a third straight day. Owner Manolo Betancourt stands guard outside, sounding his whistle when he thinks he spots Border Patrol. How long do you plan to keep your bakery closed?
As long as it takes.
Our thanks to Ryan Chandler for that report.
A homeowner in Indiana is now facing voluntary manslaughter charges. Prosecutors allege he shot and killed a housekeeper who mistakenly showed up at the wrong door. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin has the details.
Outside Indianapolis, a homeowner behind bars charged with voluntary manslaughter.
The person did not have a reasonable belief that that type of force was necessary.
Prosecutors say Kurt Anderson shot and killed housekeeper Maria Florinda Rios Perez after she and her husband mistakenly tried to enter his home at around 7 a.m. on November 5th. Video shows the bullet hole through the front door from the fatal shot that struck Perez in the head. Her husband Mauricio desperate to save her.
No es fácil.
Seeing my wife in my arms, already lifeless, covered in blood, I felt like they tore everything from me, he says. The couple had been booked to clean another house in the same neighborhood. According to court documents, Anderson told investigators he and his wife woke up to the sound of what appeared to be some type of keys, tools, or instrument being used on the front door of the residence. He said he could hear and see that the individuals outside were still trying to get into his home, adding it was getting more and more aggressive. According to court documents, the couple never made it, and that there were no handprints or any evidence of forceful contact with the structure of the door itself. In a statement, Anderson's lawyer pointing to the Castle Doctrine, which he wrote allows a person to use reasonable force, including deadly force, if he reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent an unlawful entry into his home.
That our decision today in no way should be interpreted as a challenge to Indiana stand your ground law.
Anderson has yet to enter a plea. Aaron McLaughlin, NBC News.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. So as Aaron just mentioned there, the homeowner's attorney is citing the Castle Doctrine as a defense. Tell us more about that and how it's different from stand your ground.
Yeah, Indiana has a very robust both self-defense and Castle Doctrine. And the difference is self-defense is about using reasonable force to defend yourself or another person. Castle Doctrine is about using reasonable force, including deadly force, to protect your home, which in a way is a departure rule that you can't use deadly force just to protect your property. But the home is a special kind of property. Another important point is that once the defendant raises self-defense or Castle Doctrine, the state must disprove it. It has the burden to disprove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So Indiana has a very robust self-defense set of statutes.
So if this sounds like either way it comes down to reasonable force, how is that determined legally?
Well, you saw some of the facts that are involved here. Are there fingerprints? I mean, to me, I imagined, are they these two standing outside with a mop, a bucket, and cleaning supplies? Were there any communications? You noticed the complaint mentioned something about fingerprints. Those are all factors that will go into the reasonableness determination. But again, it is the state that has the burden to disprove the reasonableness of this use of force, which is another tick in the favor of defendant.
Right.
We heard a soundbite from the prosecutor there saying this is not a challenge to Indiana's stand your ground laws. He had also said he's not challenging a person's right to self-defense. Why do you think he went out of his way to say that?
That is the statement of an elected official more than a prosecutor, because really, who is saying that this is challenging a law that's been around for literally decades? Some of the seminal cases on stand your ground and, on Castle Doctrine in Indiana are several decades old, dating back to the 90s. So this is not an assault on the law itself. It is a determination by the prosecutor that the defendant's activity did not fall within that self-defense or Castle Doctrine statute.
So what happens next here?
What happens next is that the defense is going to argue this Castle Doctrine. They're going to raise it, likely at trial, and place the burden on the state. And I have to say, in a country where self-defense laws vary wildly from state to state, Indiana is one that has a very strong self-defense and Castle Doctrine. So that is something that really puts the odds almost in the defense's favor here.
Sounds like you're saying prosecutors have to provide a lot of evidence here if they want to try and win this case.
They sure do. They have a lot of evidence, but that factored into their determination to actually bring this case, notwithstanding Indiana's Castle Doctrine.
All right. Danny Savalos, thank you so much.
On the West Coast, a continuous chain of powerful rainstorms have caused dangerous situations across Southern California. The storms triggered mudslides and flooding, which turned deadly. And there's even more rain on the way. Here's NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky.
Days of dangerous, drenching rain proving West Coast storms aren't over yet. The atmospheric river behind dozens of accidents on slick roads now blamed for at least 7 deaths. The most recent near Monterey, where authorities say sudden waves swept a 7-year-old girl into the sea. Her father killed trying to save her. Divers recovering her body late Sunday.
I came to find her and to bring closer to the family.
Some of the heaviest rain hitting mountain towns, where debris runoff buried entire streets and a muddy mess.
You gotta be prepared.
The moisture-laden storm system hitting Las Vegas, flooding parts of the Link Hotel's parking garage. At higher elevations, that same rain turning to serious snow. The National Weather Service issuing a winter storm warning for the eastern Sierra. Back in Los Angeles, the steady rain leading to several close calls.
We just heard an unnatural noise, like just a big bang.
In neighborhoods still bearing the scars of wildfires, lingering concerns.
When you have a hillside that burns, you don't have the foliage and the leaves to slow down the drop's intensity when it hits the earth. So what happens? Debris flows, mudslides.
Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
Let's check in with meteorologist Angie Lassman, who's got the latest on what's ahead for the West Coast, plus some other strong storms on the move this morning.
Yeah, a couple of trouble spots this morning, guys. Hi there. We continue to watch some of this rain kind of filtering into parts of the Southwest. This is leaving us with some unsettled weather here across Arizona, parts of Southern California, Nevada as well. And we're going to continue to see kind of this same region remain under flood watch here as we get through the day today. And you can see, of course, we've had ample amounts of rain over the past couple of days and more of that on the way here as this area of low pressure kind of slides a little farther inland. This brings the heavy rain to Nevada, Arizona, and Utah today, and we'll see some of that snow across parts of the Great Basin. And then tomorrow, we gear up for this next storm system at our doorstep. It's going to eventually slide closer to the coast here as we get through your Wednesday. Your flood risk will remain for parts of Arizona and New Mexico because of that first system. But then this next one is going to bring another batch of some heavy rain to the folks across the West Coast. So between now and the middle of the work week, specifically watching the Southwest for anywhere over 1 inch to 2 inches and even isolated amounts upwards of 3 inches in some locations. So we'll watch for the flooding concern. And then we'll pick up some snow as well. Nothing too impressive, but in the Sierra Range across the Great Basin, maybe a half an inch or a half a foot or higher in some of those locations. And then I mentioned there's a couple other trouble spots, and that's across the Great Lakes as we kind of track this system working rain and even some snow for folks there. We'll have the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic get in on the rain mostly, and then some of those snow showers for the Great Lakes here through the day today. This will bring us kind of a good dose of rain across some spots, 1 inch or so. You can see again across the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. And then otherwise, temperatures are quite warm. You can see we've got some areas that could see some record warmth over the next day or so. We look to tomorrow. It's 80s across the board. These temperatures, of course, not typical for this time of year, but that milder air will settle in across most of the east, too. You can see we go from the 50s, high 50s, I should say, on Thursday in Chicago to the low 50s on Friday, and then upper 40s by the time the weekend rolls around. Hanging on to those 70s, though, for Charlotte, mid 70s it is all the way through the work week and into the weekend. And then it's the 50s in Richmond on Thursday, but check out Friday. We are nearly at 70 degrees, so we truly, truly cannot make up our mind about where our temperatures want to land right now, guys, but we've got the 50s on tap in New York City.
New York made up its mind.
Yeah. We're like, 50,
it's
55.
Stay.
Split the difference.
Exactly. Thanks, Angie.
Thanks, you.
Coming up on Morning News Now, Latin America on edge.
Yeah, this is as the U.S. displays its military might in the Caribbean. President Trump signals his openness to escalating his war on drugs with ally Mexico, now potentially a target. We'll have analysis on that and plenty more up next. Welcome back. As the U.S. continues to build up its military presence in the Caribbean and carry out deadly strikes on alleged drug boats, President Trump now says he is open to striking Mexico and Colombia as part of his war on drug cartels. The move is escalating tensions in Latin America, which is already on edge following the president's threats to strike Venezuela. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake has the latest.
With America's largest aircraft carrier now in the Caribbean, and after another deadly U.S. strike against an alleged drug boat, President Trump signaling he's willing to expand his war on drug cartels into Mexico.
Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. We know their address. We know their front door. We know everything about every one of them.
And Colombia, too, where over 90% of cocaine smuggled into the U.S. is produced.
Colombia has cocaine factories where they make cocaine. Would I knock out those factories? I would be proud to do it personally. I didn't say I'm doing it, but I would be proud to do it because we're going to save millions of lives by doing it.
The president has already been weighing options to strike targets in Venezuela.
Is there anything you're ready to rule out at this point? Are you ruling out U.S. troops on the ground?
No, I don't rule out that. I don't rule out anything. We just have to take care of Venezuela.
But also holding out the possibility he'd speak with Venezuela's authoritarian leader, Nicolas Maduro, whom the administration accuses of running one of the country's cartels, which Maduro denies.
Are you prepared to speak with him directly? Would you commit to doing that before you ordered strikes?
Yeah, I probably would talk to him. Yeah, I talk to everybody.
While critics say those boat strikes have already gone too far.
These strikes are illegal, and it's creating major problems for the U.S.
The White House insists the strikes so far have been legal, and the president said today he would, quote, probably go to Congress if he were to expand them.
All right, Garrett, thank you. Well, let's continue this conversation with Jason Marzak. He's the Vice President and Senior Director of the Atlantic Council's Adrian Arsh Latin America Center. Jason, good morning. Thanks very much for joining us. So, Mexican President Sheinbaum has repeatedly said that U.S. military action in Mexico would not be allowed without her permission. Do you think strikes on Mexico are a serious proposition, given it's a close U.S. ally, our neighbor? What do you make of the president's comments?
Oh, good morning, Savannah and Joe. Look, I think the Mexican president has been pretty adamant in the past in saying that that Mexico is willing to cooperate with the U.S. on a whole range of items to be able to stop drug trafficking coming from Mexico into the United States. And we've seen a number of different measures that the Mexicans have taken to really be able to seal the border much more effectively than previously. And this goes to President Trump's desire to really stop drug traffic coming from Mexico into the United States. So will the United States strike inside Mexican territory? I highly doubt. I think this is part of the president's desire to levy more pressure on the Mexicans to take additional action beyond what's already been taken.
Jason, we also heard the president say he's open to speaking directly with Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro. In an interview yesterday, Maduro said he's also willing to talk to Mr. Trump, adding he's opposed to war. Given the military buildup from the U.S. on Venezuela's front door, do you think talks are realistic at this stage?
Well, Joe, there have been talks previously, and there have been talks with Nicolas Maduro for years, frankly, and those talks have always led to Maduro essentially negating what was actually agreed to at the negotiation table. So if there are talks between Trump and Maduro, it'll be important that the president finds mechanisms to be able to ensure that Maduro finally does live up to his promises, because he's pledged a lot of different items over the years, and he's always used talks to essentially delay any type of action. So that would be an important component of any conversations between the Trump White House and Maduro. Those talks might be ongoing. Those talks were ongoing earlier in the year. Those talks had supposedly ended. But if talks are continuing, that's probably a good thing, because it means that that the president's trying to find a peaceful way to be able to hopefully put additional pressure on Nicolas Maduro and also reduce the drug trafficking coming from Venezuela.
Jason, on Sunday, the State Department designated Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles a terrorist organization effective November 24th. But we just heard Garrett mention this. I mean, the administration claims that President Maduro heads the cartel. He strongly denies any ties to that or the drug trade generally. But what is the significance of that move? What does it mean for the legality of these ongoing U.S. strikes on these alleged drug boats?
Well, that's an important move, Savannah, because the designation of the Cartel de los Soles effectively means that Nicolas Maduro is a terrorist, because the president said that it's now a foreign terrorist organization. The president said that Nicolas Maduro heads that organization. The designation also provides a whole range of additional options for the United States to be able to target Cartel de los Soles. And Secretary Rubio said previously it also gives the additional rights to be able to target those groups. And so it really ramps up the pressure on Venezuela, on Nicolas Maduro, and it's probably part of the tactics that are being deployed insofar as any talks that might be ongoing.
All right, Jason Marzak, thank you so much. Coming up, Google searches are surging for a drug that started trending after it appeared in the most recent season of The White Lotus.
We're going to talk to a psychologist about the anti-anxiety medication, what you should know about the potential risks. That's next in your weekly mental health check-in. We're back with your weekly mental health check-in. We're going to start with some new concerns about a U-turn from D.C. public schools, which initially vowed to put a mental health care professional in every school. Now it's revamping that plan.
Plus, life is imitating art. This morning, there's a new study that shows Google searches are surging over a drug featured in the latest season of The White Lotus. But what does it treat, and is it right for you?
Psychologist Dr. Jennifer Hartstein joins us with the latest on that and some other mental health news. Dr. Hartstein, always good to have you with us. So let's start in D.C. The Department of Behavioral Health in Washington launched a new plan to place mental health clinicians in local public schools. based on need. That's walking back an earlier promise to put a professional in every school. I guess anything helps right now. Officials say they had to pull back from the initial plan because of staffing challenges, budget cuts. I think most schools can identify with that. Talk about how kids can benefit from having access to these kinds of resources in public schools, and what are the risks in many of the places where those resources just aren't prioritized.
Well, it's great to see you guys. And I think, we are in the midst of a youth mental health crisis that is continuing to happen, unfortunately. And without the supports in schools, and so many schools are impacted, kids aren't getting what they need to be better at school, to focus, to manage the challenges they have in life that they don't have access to outside. So we know that school-based mental health care really is a wonderful place where they have more support, more access to that support, which takes them into greater ability to succeed all over the place. So the fact that they're turning it around, while I get it, it's, budgetary cuts, that's the problem. It's going to put kids at greater risk for more mental health issues down the road.
Absolutely. Important conversation. All right. We also want to ask you about actress Gwyneth Paltrow. She's opening up. She's got this podcast, Goop. She's sharing about some struggles that she's having with her mental health. We're going to play a little bit.
I'll get in bed exhausted and my heart will start to race. And then I'll have intrusive thoughts, which I've never had in my life.
Interesting. I think somebody that's been so in the public eye, right, to express this new change that she's having and to share it in real time. Do you have any tips for people who are experiencing mental health struggles for the first time later in their lives?
Well, and I think we have to remember the why of some of this, Savannah, right? Gwyneth Paltrow is a woman in her 50s. We know that menopause, which is a thing that we're talking about so much more, has a huge impact on women's mental health. So I think for women especially, you notice these changes. Let's not ignore them. And that's true across the board. If something starts to feel different, don't ignore it. Ask for help, talk to someone, check in with some trusted resources, see, hey, are you having any of this? Go to your primary care physician. Don't just be like, oh, it's a phase and pretend that nothing's happening. Lean in, get curious, ask yourself what's happening.
Good.
Let's get to this one we tease. This new study says Google searches for a powerful anti-anxiety drug called lorazepam reportedly doubled since it was featured in one of the storylines in the latest season of The White Lotus. For those who watched, the Parker Posey character was using it. Then her husband's character started secretly taking the pills without a prescription. So Dr. Hartstein, break down this medication for us. Who's it for? And how does someone go about deciding if it is right for them?
So lorazepam is the generic name, and it's known as Ativan as the brand name. And it's important for people who are struggling with severe anxiety. But here's the kicker. It's meant for short-term usage to help get things under control while you're adding therapy or more long-term SSRIs or other medications, because it's a benzodiazepine. It's highly addictive. And so the withdrawal from it can be really challenging.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's great for the moment. It helps get those intense anxiety symptoms under control. But in the long term, it's not meant to be used. So we have to be really mindful. So the fact that people are searching for it, trying to get it, we want to be careful because it's a highly addictive anxiety medication.
Very important news there. We don't need Google. We have Dr. Hartstein here for us, giving us some expert advice. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, a gene therapy breakthrough could now offer a potential cure for a rare disease that usually confines kids to their homes. It's called severe combined immunodeficiency disorder, or SCID for short. Babies born with it don't develop the cells they need for a functioning immune system. Well, a recent clinical trial showed a promising success rate for a possible treatment. Erica Gonzalez from NBC Washington spoke to one family who says that trial gave their daughter a second chance at life.
This is Eliana Nakam, a little girl with big dreams.
I would like to be an artist.
Today, the 12-year-old is indoors because she wants to be, not because she has to. The first year of her life was spent in the confines of a sterile environment where doors and windows had to stay shut and visitors had to stay out, all to save her life. At 4 months old, Eliana was diagnosed with a rare disease called severe combined immunodeficiency disorder, or SCID. Babies born with SCID don't develop the cells required for a functioning immune system, and therefore, every germ could potentially be deadly. Eliana's form, ADA skid, is ultra rare, with fewer than 10 cases a year.
We had to get rid of our cat and dog. We couldn't have any plants in the house. We couldn't have any fresh fruits or vegetables. I mean, we really had to make our apartment as sterilized as possible place for her to live.
You had to create a bubble.
I had to create a bubble, yes. So instead of actually putting her in a physical bubble, we just lived in a bigger bubble.
SCID is commonly referred to as bubble boy disease. Left untreated, life expectancy could be just 2 years.
In my head, I immediately thought, that I should really expect the worst. But then I felt that I really needed to, dig into the information that was available and help figure out the best course of treatment.
And that's when the family from Fredericksburg, Virginia, heard about a clinical trial more than 2,000 miles away from home in Los Angeles that could potentially give Eliana a chance to enjoy a life outside.
He told us she could do gene therapy, she could do a bone marrow transplant, and if it's successful, they can live potentially like a normal life. And that's all I heard, and that's all I cared about.
Dr. Donald Cohn is with UCLA's Broad Stem Cell Research and led the clinical trial.
They've basically gone from being a very fragile baby in danger of dying from infections to being healthy, vigorous kids. So it's really gratifying to be able to do that.
The treatment is still considered experimental, with doctors collecting stem cells from the patient's own bone marrow. In the lab, the cells are isolated, a normal ADA gene is added, and the cells are returned to the body after a round of chemotherapy and start getting to work, building a brand new immune system over the next year. Doctors call it a cure. Of the 62 patients who took part over a 5-year span, all are alive, and 59 of them have a completely restored immune function, a 95% success rate.
They're living out in the world, they're going to school, they're doing all the normal childhood things without getting unusual infections.
Now, the process is anything but easy. Eliana experienced life and death setbacks with the treatment and was in and out of the hospital. Then, one day, her family got the call that would open up their world again.
So when she was 1.5 years old, and Dr. Cohn told us that she can go out and she can eat food that is normal, and I'm allowed to kiss her now.
You couldn't kiss your own child?
No, I could not kiss my own child. No, because what if I have something?
You went 1.5 years and you didn't kiss your own child?
No, and I still do not. Because I have lingering. It's stuck with me. Yes.
Trauma. Doctors say the mental toll of such a fragile life may prove as challenging to cure as the disease itself.
One of the things we see in a lot of the parents is it's hard to completely drop your guard. Even 12, 13 years later, you still remember how fragile your baby was and that you were the only thing that stood between them and a world full of germs.
For Eliana, it's now a world full of possibility and a far cry from her past life.
I think it's interesting to hear my own backstory. Some of it's a little scary to hear, like, if I didn't know it was like that emotional and scary for them.
Her future, though, is right here in her own hands and as bright as the rainbow she draws.
Well, our thanks to Erica Gonzalez for sharing Eliana's story. Amazing.
Yeah, coming up, Uber is preparing to launch its own fleet of air taxis that would get passengers where they need to go a lot quicker. But would you hop on?
When we come back, we'll give you an exclusive sneak peek at this unique ride share that could soon become a reality and get you out of that traffic jam. You're watching Morning News Now. We're back with an NBC News exclusive about a first-of-its-kind rideshare that's literally getting ready to take off.
The days of sitting in traffic could soon be numbered. Uber is partnering with an aviation company called Joby, and they're preparing to launch a fleet of air taxis. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons got a behind-the-scenes look at these new aircraft. He joins us now live in Dubai. Keir, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. This is the Joby behind me there. She's a good-looking aircraft. And, of course, as you say, she is completely different from anything we've seen before. I'm in the United Arab Emirates because she's on something of a world tour. But here in Dubai, it's significant because what they're saying is maybe even by next year, you'll be able to take your phone, get in the Uber app, and book a ride in one of these. Picture hailing an Uber and lifting off in one of these. NBC News given behind-the-scenes access to an American firm in a global race to launch commercial air taxis. The company, Joby, in partnership with Uber, has been testing and demonstrating around the world, including here in Dubai, in California, and in New York.
This is click a button and get a flight. This is bringing the magic of flight to our everyday lives.
So how will it work? A regular Uber will pick you up at your home or office and take you to a vertiport, where you'll board a taxi unlike any other. The cabin will be air-conditioned with 4 passenger seats, so you may find yourself ride-sharing. Joby says a ride will cost around the same as an Uber Black. Fully electric, the taxi can go 200 miles an hour and has been in development for 16 years. Roughly the size and weight of a large SUV, listen to how quiet it is as it takes off. That's crucial because they're about to start testing it over Dubai's densely populated areas. We met their test pilot, who, in another life, put F-35s through their paces.
It's up there with the F-35 in terms of its responsiveness.
For the many who will worry about safety, he points to the aircraft's 6 propellers.
We can still perform our flights and deliver our customers to where they need to be safely, even if we have a failure.
At least 5 US cities are hoping to be pioneers after President Trump simplified the process by executive order. Here in Dubai, vertiports are already under construction. The city set to be the first to launch a full fare-paying service, Joby says, as soon as next year.
Okay, Keir, we are just in amazement. And also over the fact that it would cost the same as an Uber Black. I mean, that's like not that big of a deal. Right. Tell us more about that, the price here, and which U.S. cities might see this first.
So the aircraft itself, of course, doesn't cost the same as an Uber Black. The estimate is around about $5 million that it costs to make one of these. But you're right, that price point for the ride itself that Joby is describing, the reason why they say that that's going to be possible, because you might say, well, a pilot for an aircraft is going to be paid inevitably very differently from a driver of an Uber. Well, they say, yes, but the driver of the Uber is going to sit in traffic. This aircraft is going to go at 200 miles an hour, and it's going to be, as I mentioned in the piece, ride-sharing, 4 people inside. So, therefore, they say those efficiencies are going to enable them to get you that kind of fare. And as it expands, they say, that price point should get better.
Wow. Clearly, Keir, a lot of companies are going to be involved in this race to create the flying car. Governments are going to be deeply interested. Who else is involved?
Yeah. It's not just the Joby, Joe. Do you see what I did there? That's right. So you'd be the first person to fly in it, I think, Joe. But no, there are many other countries and many other companies. One called Archer, for example, just about an hour from here in Abu Dhabi, and a number of others. This technology is so forward-thinking. There are many who want to get on board. And another point, too, Joe, at some time in the future, some countries and companies believe that they will be autonomous. So imagine climbing into an air taxi with no pilot.
A Waymo in the sky. So
I've already told the story about how that went for me.
Keir, here's the problem. I'm a Joe F, not a Joe B, so I actually won't get the first ride. That was awesome. Keir, appreciate it. Thank you.
Really cool. Well, again, an amazing assignment. Thanks.
All right. In other financial headlines, Google's CEO is giving a word of caution to AI users.
NBC's Emily Lorsch is with us with our Money Minute. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Good morning. A new warning from one of the biggest names in tech. Google parent Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai told the BBC people should not blindly trust AI tools, stressing they're still prone to errors. He says it's why a strong mix of sources, including Google search, remains critical as AI enters what he calls a, quote, new phase. That includes the integration of Google's Gemini chatbot into its search. Google's preparing to unveil Gemini 3.0, its next large language model that's expected to drop soon. And one of the world's wealthiest people and the founder of Amazon is taking on a major new role. Jeff Bezos is launching an AI startup called Project Prometheus, where he'll serve as co-chief executive, according to the New York Times. The company is launching with more than $6 billion in funding, partly from Bezos, making it one of the best financed early-stage startups. Its mission, develop AI that can drive the next wave of engineering and manufacturing in computers, cars, and even spacecraft. Finally, Target and Starbucks are rolling out their first ever holiday drink collaboration, a frozen peppermint hot chocolate sold only at Starbucks cafes inside Target stores. Both chains have been hit hard this year as inflation, tariffs, and cost-sensitive shoppers drive down sales. The companies are hopeful this exclusive drink can nudge customers back in during the critical holiday season. Target reports its earnings tomorrow, and analysts say every bit of traffic matters as the retailer tries to reverse 3 straight quarters of falling sales. And so this exclusive drink is available starting today. You have to go to Target stores and find that Starbucks. If we had one here in 30 Rock, I might have brought you guys a treat.
Best with your props. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate it. Many Parkinson's patients are finding a way to fight back through a popular program. Right now, more than 1 million people in the U.S. are living with Parkinson's disease. The condition can affect their movement, balance, and facial expressions. It can also affect their confidence. Physical activity can help with the symptoms, especially if that exercise focuses on footwork and hand-eye coordination. Well, NBC's Ann Thompson spoke to the founder of one program that's helping patients do just that, one punch at a time.
In boxing, the goal is to knock out your opponent. And no one wants to do that more than the 3 people in this unique program.
I said, I don't have a disease. I'm just going to handle this as a challenge. I have a challenge and I have to deal with it.
Cheryl Doyle's challenge is Parkinson's disease, a nervous system disorder impacting movement, often causing tremors.
Step in. Nice.
George Nichols has dealt with it for 4 years.
How does the boxing help those symptoms?
My Parkinson's exacerbates itself in my left arm. So with boxing, it just makes it, after an hour of boxing, this will calm down immensely.
Noelle Conley has multiple sclerosis, which interrupts communication between the brain and the body.
I want to show that even though I have difficulty walking and I use mobility aids, I'm still rocking it and living an amazing, fabulous life.
They are warriors in Punch for Parkinson's, an organization paying for gym memberships in 8 states with 400 people on the waiting list. The brainchild of Boston firefighter Ryan Roach.
What's helping others is trying to let these people live a more normal life. That's kind of all we really want. Maybe get around the house a little easier.
Ryan's inspiration, his uncle Freddie Roach, a World Boxing Hall of Fame trainer who has Parkinson's.
I was just kind of watching him in the ring, and he gets in there and everything seems to go away. And I was like, I wonder if I could bring this to like the regular people.
What Frank, Cheryl, and Noelle call free medicine is dispensed at this suburban Boston gym by Frank DeSario.
One step. Good.
He works with all kinds of boxers.
2, 3, 2, boom, 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 boom.
But was a little unsure when Ryan first asked him to work with people who have Parkinson's.
I didn't know if I was good enough to get them better. That was my main fear.
And what have you learned?
That I'm pretty good at it.
I wish I could copy 10 Franks because he's so good with them.
Boxing is boxing, says Frank. Whether professional or Parkinson's is part of your resume. Here, the sound of success is everywhere.
Good. When you hear the glove hit the mitt and it makes that pop, it feels awesome.
George, Cheryl, and Noelle all say their classes boost their self-esteem. Mom of 3, Noelle says the biggest difference is at home.
I can be more active in my kids' lives. It allows me to be more functioning at night, to be able to cook meals, to take my kids to hockey practice, to be active in their everyday.
A year and a half into this, Cheryl says it's got her doctor's attention.
Has your doctor noticed a difference?
He has, and he says that that's the answer. That's my medicine.
For George, it's what happens after class that keeps him coming back.
About an hour after I get home, they're all gone. All the symptoms are gone.
So you don't shake anymore?
I don't shake at all, for probably the rest of the day. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing.
Hitting back and moving forward.
Good. We just roll with the punches and we keep punching, and help people every way we can.
Ann Thompson, NBC News.
Those programs are incredible. I've highlighted one in Seattle that is extraordinary.
So great.
So, yeah.
Coming up for some Thanksgiving is all about 3 things: food, family, and football.
After the break, we got your first look at the positively stuffed halftime lineups that'll keep you kicking even after the big meal. Who got the gigs? We'll tell you next. Welcome back. As if the turkey, the stuffing, and desserts weren't exciting enough, football fans are getting another treat this Thanksgiving, a triple header. And we now know those holiday games will feature some star-studded halftime shows. The NFL announced rock legend Jack White will take the stage during that powerhouse matchup between the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers. Global superstar Post Malone will perform at the Kansas City Chiefs-Dallas Cowboys game. And then in the primetime game, Lil Jon will turn down for what when the Baltimore Ravens take on the Cincinnati Bengals. So we had Beyonce Bowl last year. This year we get Lil Jon Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. And Post Malone. That's awesome. Thanks, Joe. We're going to end this hour with a look at the country music star who gave one military family an early holiday surprise they will never forget. NBC News Now anchor Tom Yamas has more on the heartwarming moment that was cheered on by thousands of NFL fans.
He's been in for 15 years, and he's been deployed for about 6 months, and we really miss him.
At halftime of the Tennessee Titans game, country music star Trace Atkins welcomed the Sizemore family to the field.
All right, we have a surprise for you if you would look up here.
A special message from a man they really miss, their husband and father, Master Sergeant Christopher Sizemore. He's been deployed overseas with the Army Special Forces for the last 6 months.
Enjoy the game, and I miss you, and I love you.
But the best reveal was still to come.
We got another surprise for you.
Master Sergeant Sizemore wasn't just on video. He was actually at the game, walking out in full uniform, ready to reunite with his family.
Master Sergeant Sizemore.
His kids, Aiden and Addison, jumping into his arms.
How great was that, Titans fans?
Were you surprised? I mean, could you believe what was happening?
I could not believe what was happening. I was really, really surprised.
Are you proud of your dad, that he protects our country?
Yes. Tell him like a million times.
We weren't going to have Thanksgiving with him, so to have him come into those plans makes it a lot more exciting to look forward to doing all of the holidays.
A hug and a moment this family will never forget.
It's hard to put into words. They're my world. My family's my world. Our hearts are all filled to the brim.
Oh, what a great moment. Our thanks to Tom Yamas for that report.
Football fake out there. That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, momentum on Capitol Hill. Top lawmakers in the House ready to vote to force the release of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. But even with a late surge of support from the White House, will it pass? And what might happen if it reaches the Senate? We are in Washington with the latest. Also this morning, a bombshell court ruling over that ongoing criminal probe into former FBI Director James Comey. Federal judge saying the Trump administration made missteps, how that could now put the entire case in jeopardy. Plus, off to the races. The countdown to Thanksgiving is officially on, and shutdown-weary Americans are now eyeing the nation's airports and airlines ahead of another bustling travel season. Are they really ready for the rush? We're going to clear the air later in the hour. Speaking of the holidays, why hiring for those critical seasonal jobs could touch lows not seen in 15 years. We'll look at how that might impact shoppers looking to cash in on a little Christmas spirit. Big change this year. Caleb Silver is here to help us dive into that.
Absolutely.
Let's begin this hour on Capitol Hill, where a vote is set to take place this afternoon that could bring the last of the Jeffrey and Epstein files into public view.
After securing support from President Trump, the House is now expected to pass a bipartisan measure to force the Justice Department to release all of its files related to the late sex offender's case. Before that can happen, the bill will also have to clear the Senate. NBC News senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson starts us off this hour. Hallie, good morning.
Hey there, good morning to you. What once seemed like a long shot is now very much on the verge of reality, with that vote in the House set to happen later today, and it may be a landslide. One top Republican tells NBC News he predicts almost everybody will back this bipartisan bill, with some survivors saying for them, this isn't political, but personal. A moment months in the making, with the House of Representatives set to vote today to force the release of documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Everybody's voting for it.
So you're voting for it because everyone's voting for it.
Everybody's going to vote.
And what we need to do is protect the innocent, and we need to hang the guilty bastards that are involved with it.
Some Epstein survivors also gathering in Washington ahead of the vote, and a PSA urging the release of the files, playing in the shadow of the Capitol overnight. The late surge of support in Congress coming after a dramatic reversal from President Trump after months of resistance and a pressure campaign. Now,
I'm all for it.
The president saying he doesn't want the controversy to detract from his priorities, but adding he'd sign the bill into law, pressed by NBC's Garrett Haake.
You would sign it if
give
it comes
them
to your
everything.
desk?
Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us.
One conservative lawmaker telling NBC News some Republicans privately encouraged White House officials to shift strategy on the bill, co-sponsored by Republican Thomas Massie, who says the president doesn't need to wait for Congress to act.
If they're serious about it, they should release them right now. It's that simple.
The president, who's not been accused of wrongdoing related to Epstein, has said his association with the sex offender ended in the early 2000s. And this morning, the fallout from the Epstein scandal growing after the release of emails from his estate last week. Larry Summers, the former Harvard president and former Treasury Secretary under President Bill Clinton, announcing overnight he is stepping back from public commitments after correspondence between him and Epstein came to light. Summers, who hasn't been accused of involvement in Epstein's crimes, writing, quote, "I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain they have caused." So as for this vote in the House, let's say it passes the House, let's say it passes the Senate, let's say the president signs it into law, what could ultimately become public as far as records or documents? We could see, for example, financial records, perhaps more Epstein emails or texts, evidence from hard drives seized from his properties, maybe investigative summaries of interviews with key players. But keep in mind that this bill also lets the DOJ withhold information that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. And of course, the president last week directed his DOJ to open an investigation. So there's a question on how that might ultimately affect what becomes public. And by the way, there's no timeline on when the DOJ would have to comply if this bill does pass. Back to you.
All right, Hallie, thank you so much.
President Trump's immigration crackdown is spreading to more cities in North Carolina. Today's day 4 of what Homeland Security officials are calling Operation Charlotte's Web. Border Patrol agents have been fanned out across North Carolina's largest city. Well, now the state's capital, Raleigh, is the next target of these raids. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler is in Charlotte with the latest. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. And city and state leaders continue to push back, strongly condemning this mission. But Border Patrol is only expanding it, now continuing their surge in the state capital.
This morning, as Border Patrol efforts surge in Charlotte, the ongoing immigration crackdown now expanding into Raleigh. The mayor there telling NBC News Border Patrol and ICE arrived in Raleigh last night and will take action today. The state's Democratic Governor Josh Stein condemning the efforts, urging agents to, quote, target violent criminals, not neighbors walking down the street, while accusing them of targeting people because of the color of their skin. While in Charlotte, protests continuing. Homeland Security officials saying among the more than 130 people arrested there are illegal immigrants with violent histories. Although DHS has not clarified how many arrested had criminal records.
We've got many individuals we've already arrested and are bringing to justice and deporting.
Border Patrol agents have been searching the city since Saturday, in parking lots, outside homes, near community centers for immigrant children, though none were present. Homeland Security is calling it Operation Charlotte's Web.
I think they're targeting wherever there is a strong Hispanic presence.
Some confrontations turning violent. DHS says an officer was injured when a man drove a van into a law enforcement SUV on Sunday. 24-year-old citizen Miguel Martinez now charged with felony assault. Some immigrant families staying home, some businesses closing their doors, including Manolo Betancourt, who temporarily shut his bakery, where a crowd gathered to protest the crackdown overnight. He says he wants to protect his community.
I can lose money, I can lose my business, but I'm not gonna lose my peace of mind. The least I could do was to protect my immigrant community.
And you know, guys, yesterday we were wondering what, if any, effect these operations may have on local schools. It's hard to say for certain, but the numbers certainly seem striking. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District tells us that 15% of their student population was absent yesterday, about 21,000 kids. That comes as this morning students at least one local high school are planning to walk out in protest. Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you.
Well, the Justice Department's case against former FBI Director James Comey could be in jeopardy.
A federal judge in Virginia is warning prosecutors the handling of Comey's case is raising, quote, genuine issues of misconduct. Comey is accused of making a false statement to Congress as well as obstruction of a congressional proceeding related to a hearing in 2020. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges against him.
NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grunback joins us now with more on this. Gary, good morning. Always good to have you with us. So a little more background here. In the court ruling yesterday, Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick granted a request. It was from Comey's lawyers. They asked prosecutors to turn over grand jury materials from the indictment. The judge even acknowledged that is an unusual step, but mentioned the possible missteps by the government. Walk us through your reporting and what this ruling means exactly.
Yeah, Savannah, this is not usually how this works, right? In a grand jury room, usually you have the prosecutors, the members of the grand jury, and a court reporter, and that's about it. And nobody else finds out what happens in there. But the judge said this is such an extraordinary circumstance that he thinks there may be some wrongdoing here. And he points to two different points. One, he points to two statements that U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan, made to the grand jury that were misstatements of the law. Now, remember, when this indictment came down, Lindsay Halligan was on day 3 of being a prosecutor. She had 0 prior prosecutorial experience, so perhaps she would be forgiven for not knowing the ins and outs of how a grand jury works. And second, whether the government has really shared all the information that happened inside that grand jury room. There's a question of several missing minutes that might have happened that are not on the transcript and what exactly happened in that grand jury room. Now, the Trump administration has appealed this ruling, and that should be figured out by the end of the week.
So, Gary, it was just last week when a different judge raised similar concerns about missteps during a hearing on whether to disqualify Halligan because of her legality of her appointment. What challenges is the Justice Department facing in trying this Comey case going forward? Because we're still waiting for a ruling from that judge, right?
We are, yeah. There's a lot of rulings we're waiting on related to this case. James Comey's team is going to try everything they could possibly do to get this case dismissed. One of them is, as we saw last week, challenging the appointment of U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. And the other is finding anything possible that happened incorrectly in that grand jury room that they can say this should be a reason why this case should be dismissed. Anything that was said, or more importantly, was not said correctly to that grand jury is certainly a valid reason for them to go forward and do this, guys.
Gary, if the Comey case gets dismissed, should we expect the DOJ to retry it or replace Lindsay Halligan, have somebody else lead the investigation into Comey's alleged wrongdoings?
So this kind of gets into legalese and the weeds here, but I'll keep it sort of broad here. There's two different points here. One, Lindsay Halligan was the only prosecutor inside the grand jury room, and she's the only person that signed that indictment. So there's a real argument to make here legally that that indictment should be thrown out if she is disqualified. But there's also this federal statute that is not often talked about that allows an indictment that is dismissed within the statute of limitations to actually come back within 6 months. So there's a potential for the DOJ to bring this back within 6 months with a different U.S. attorney. Guys.
Right. Gary Grunback, thank you very much.
This morning, federal investigators are expected to release the findings of their inquiry into the Key Bridge collapse in Maryland. The tragedy happened about a year and a half ago when a cargo ship hit the bridge in the middle of the night, causing it to crumble into the river below. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist is in Washington with more on what to expect from today's meeting. Aaron, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. The National Transportation Safety Board is expected to tell us what caused this crash. It killed 6 people. It snarled transit and commerce in this region for months after that crash happened. This accident is also highlighting major concerns about bridges that are similar all around the country.
The whole bridge just fell down. The whole bridge just collapsed.
This morning at an NTSB hearing, we expect to learn what likely caused a massive container ship to slam into Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge in March of 2024, and what might have been done to prevent it. It was just before 1:30 in the morning as 8 construction workers on a break sat in their cars in the middle of the bridge, unaware that the 947-foot dolly container ship
had lost power and was about to collide with the bridge.
There's a ship approaching that just lost their steering. So until you get that under control, we got to stop all traffic.
Police were able to block traffic on the bridge just seconds before it crumbled, but 7 of those workers slid into the Patapsco River. Only 1 was rescued. We were at the site just days after the collapse. You're looking at now some of the first pieces that were cut, and they're waiting to be removed. It took more than a month to clear away enough wreckage to recover the missing. Earlier this year, the NTSB said Maryland's Transportation Department had not assessed the bridge's vulnerability.
Had the MDTA conducted a vulnerability assessment of the Key Bridge based on recent vessel traffic, the MDTA would have been able to proactively identify strategies to reduce the risk of a collapse and loss of lives associated with a vessel collision with the bridge.
Even if the assessment had been completed, the impact may have simply been too much.
I don't know that any of the modern protections would have absorbed enough energy to prevent this collapse.
Civil engineering professor Aaron Bell says the NTSB report will also look beyond just this incident.
It will not just focus on this particular failure, but what can we put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Now, the NTSB has flagged 68 bridges in 19 states as having urgent need of assessment for potential to collapse in a collision with a ship. We're told that many of those bridge owners have either completed or started planning for some of these inspections, and ultimately these inspections will help them reduce the risk of these bridges being vulnerable to collapse. Joe?
More to come on this bridge later today. Aaron, thank you.
Well, if you can believe it, Thanksgiving is just over 1 week away. Luckily, the government's reopened. Airlines are flying at full capacity. There are still lingering questions, though, about if airports are ready for the big crowds we're going to see over the next 2 weeks. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda is live at Newark Liberty Airport for us. Hey, Em, good morning.
Good morning to you. I'll show you a good sign, and it's all that green and on-time departures you'll see on the flight boards behind me as major U.S. airlines say that they are ready for the impending travel rush. United says excluding FAA-mandated cancellations, its on-time departure, or its on-time performance, rather, is even better than this time last year. Still, after weeks of travel nightmares, some passengers are wary and even changing their Thanksgiving travel plans. This morning, U.S. airlines are stepping on the gas. Now, day 2 since transportation officials lifted the flight reduction emergency order.
I was really happy that my flight was not last week, but this week.
There just seems to be a sense of calm. Fewer than 100 flights were nixed across the country Monday, in stark contrast to the thousands plaguing the nation's busiest airports in recent weeks. Kayla Lopez saw her flight canceled last week. You're not traveling for Thanksgiving. Are you happy about that?
Yes, very happy. I'm avoiding traveling, staying home, Thanksgiving and Christmas too.
She's not alone. Aviation analytics company Cirium reports Thanksgiving bookings slowed by nearly 5 percentage points this month. AAA even acknowledging their holiday forecast could shift if some air travelers decide to drive instead of fly following recent flight cancellations.
I think there is a percentage of people that is snake bitten from the impacts of the shutdown and just wants to avoid the chaos of the airport in general.
But this morning, major airlines all assuring customers they're ready for the holiday rush. American says it will operate more than 80,000 flights between this Thursday and December 2nd, including additional late-night flights to help passengers returning home to American hubs in Phoenix and Chicago.
Holidays is just like peak travel time. You want to maximize time with family and friends, and anything that kind of jeopardizes that in a period, there's just not that much vacation in a year.
Everybody's back to work now, and, that's a big relief for us.
Though even with the government reopened, there's always the chance Mother Nature could have other plans for your holiday.
Weather is the biggest reason why we see any type of travel disruptions.
And the Transportation Secretary overnight sharing that, like TSA officers, air traffic controllers who worked through the government shutdown will also be receiving $10,000 bonus checks. Guys.
All right, Emily, thank you so much.
You just saw her in Emily's piece, but she's so nice, we're going to use her twice. Let's welcome back travel expert at Going.com, Katie Nastro. Katie, good to have you with us. You mentioned people may want to avoid the chaos at airports altogether. You also say the distribution of travelers may look a little different this year. What does that mean? Why is it important for people who are traveling this year?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. I think what people need to be aware of is that this year may look slightly different. Yes, we are going to see record numbers of travelers, according to AAA, but there still may be some lingering impacts of people feeling slightly snake bitten from what we saw just a week ago. We actually, if you look at the numbers a little bit closer, we're actually seeing a slower amount of growth year over year than we saw 2023 into 2024. About 400,000 people less looking to travel for Thanksgiving this year, according to AAA numbers. So while there may be a percentage of travelers that stay home this year because they just thought, you know what, I'm going to avoid it altogether, or they keep those alternate plans. So instead of flying, they may be driving this year. We're just going to see a different distribution. Things may look a little bit different, but yes, we are still seeing more people travel year over year.
Katie, we just heard from Emily that she saw those on-time departures at Newark, but generally across the country, really, how's it going with airports trying to rebound from the effects of the government shutdown?
Yeah, you know, Savannah, you have to give credit where credit is due, and the airlines really did a great job at getting things going after the massive disruptions that we saw last week. I mean, you know, looking at that last Sunday, that was the fourth worst day in terms of cancellations. Now, fast forward to this past Sunday, and we saw an above average on-time departures for most flights. So that is really great news, and it should give travelers confidence moving through into what we like to call the Super Bowl of travel, which is Thanksgiving next week.
Speaking of rebounding, the days of lower travel numbers around the pandemic are certainly over.
Oh, yeah.
AAA reporting higher numbers now than before the pandemic hit. What are the most important things to consider for those traveling this year, especially keeping in mind some of the people who travel around Thanksgiving don't do it that often during the rest of the year?
Yeah, two things that people should be aware of. One, travelers, there are so many more travelers than before. So, you know, that age-old dad advice of getting to the airport early is always great, but also looking into different programs that actually allow you to move through security a little bit faster, TSA PreCheck, Clear, things of that nature might be great for investing in for these big pivotal moments of travel out throughout the year, and they do pay for themselves. You know, even if you travel once, you're probably spending more per year on that type of program, or sorry, you're probably spending more per year on your designer salad than on these programs that help you get through a little bit faster. So just something to consider, as well as we want travelers to just equip themselves with what I like to call a Plan B flight, or just Plan B alternate transport. We saw just last week that travel can get disrupted at any point in time. So we always just want to have another flight in mind if you are traveling by plane, not necessarily purchasing that ticket, but having that next flight in mind on the airline that you are traveling on, just to make the process of getting rebooked a little bit faster, just for yourself, as well as for whatever customer service agent you might be working with.
Designer salad is a hilarious term.
Wait till you see the prices of the salads at the airport.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not designer.
And guess what? They're not designer, right? Oh, they're sad and old. Well, that was maybe not true. Katie, you're the expert on how to find a deal. If somebody hasn't booked yet, what should they do?
Look, we want people to get on top of booking for Thanksgiving as well as the winter holidays. I know we just went through a big snafu when it came to air travel, but we are back, baby, and we are ready to go. And that means that we need to get people booked so they're not encountering even higher prices when they wait until the last minute. It is not like retail where the bargain bins come out. You want to make sure you're getting your flights booked, and you want to make sure that, you know, you might have to make some concessions. You might be a little bit flexible. That means instead of a nonstop, you're booking a connecting flight. That means maybe you're looking on a budget carrier for that rock bottom price. Just giving yourself all options so you're not overpaying. And a main economy ticket is the most flexible without having to pay additional fees.
Always good advice. Katie Nastro, thank you so much.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right, now let's get a check on your morning news now weather. That's the thing that could impact your flights. Angie Lassman's here in studio.
Hey, Angie.
Hi, guys. We've got a couple of spots that maybe if you're getting some traveling done today, or if you're just going to be out and about doing any of your errands, you might want to watch for. We've got some rain still across parts of the Southwest. Now, not quite as much for folks across Los Angeles and points south of there, but we still do have a bit of that rain working just to the east of San Diego, and specifically specifically across Nevada, Utah, and Arizona is where we're going to kind of see that push of more moisture through the day today. So you can see the flood watches that are up interior areas of California, Las Vegas included in this, stretching down to Lake Havasu City as we gear up for kind of more of this rain through the day today. So we'll see the heavy rain across that region, but we're also going to see a little bit of that mountain snow across parts of the Great Basin and the Sierras. We'll pick up a little more additional snow here as we get through the day today. Otherwise, we're gearing up for this next storm system that'll be at our doorstep by tomorrow. So this is a look at your Wednesday. We'll remain unsettled because we've got this next system that's going to slide closer to the coast. This is going to ramp up those rain chances for the middle of the week and beyond. As far as the rainfall amounts across the Southwest between now and tomorrow, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches in some of those spots. So no surprise that we're concerned about flooding. Snowfall amounts, not all that impressive, but still could pick up about a half of a foot. Yes, correct. 6 inches as we get through basically the middle of the week in parts of the Great Basin, the Rockies, and the Sierra Range. Now we've got a quick moving system across parts of the Great Lakes, and honestly, the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic is where you'll see the rain, but the snow will be focused for the Great Lakes. We'll see a couple of snow showers, nothing that's going to be too impressive, but it could impact your commute, so heads up for that here as you get through the day today. We'll see maybe 1 inch or so in rainfall amounts from Louisville to Cincinnati and out towards Charleston, so it could slow you down just a bit out towards Washington, D.C., guys, just about a half of an inch. And then the warmth is what we're dealing with for the South, 92 degrees in Laredo today. We've got a handful of records that we could potentially break today, tomorrow across that same region. So we've got it all for you.
Oh, boy. Nice. Thanks, Angie. Of course. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including why some big employers are choosing to cut back on all that holiday hiring this year, putting vital seasonal jobs in jeopardy.
First, after the break, the latest in that string of high-profile celebrity break-ins. Well, now it's rattling a Bravo Beverly Hills icon. We've got more on that next.
We're back now with new details about a string of burglaries targeting the homes of celebrities. The latest victim, Real Housewives star Kathy Hilton. Her Bella mansion was broken into while she was away over the weekend. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson. He joins us from Los Angeles. Hey, Steve, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. This happened while the reality star was away at BravoCon. The MO, similar to what we've seen in other celebrity burglaries, targeting athletes and movie stars, giving thieves the perfect opportunity to strike.
Please welcome Kathy Hilton.
Just hours after Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Kathy Hilton took to the stage at BravoCon in Las Vegas.
I'm really proud to be part of this.
Her sprawling Bel Air mansion was being burglarized. Los Angeles police say a call for the break-in came on Saturday just before midnight, and so far, no suspects have been arrested. A rep for the reality star telling NBC News Kathy's husband, Rick Hilton, was home at the time, but everyone is fine. Earlier that day, about a mile away, Hilton's Real Housewives co-star Sutton Strack's home was also targeted by thieves, according to police. Strack releasing this surveillance camera image and sharing in a statement that the thieves entered through the kitchen window and stole all of her luxury handbags and fine jewelry.
I'm Sutton. Welcome to my house. Y'all come on in and let's take a look.
Both Strack and Hilton often welcome cameras inside their lives, allowing audiences to see their extravagant homes and designer wardrobes.
Oh, that looks really good. I love the way you put the roses in.
Yeah. Something security experts say could make them more vulnerable.
Anytime you bring anyone into your home via the camera, when you are a celebrity, you certainly do become a target.
The pair are just the latest celebrities whose luxury homes have been hit while they were out at well-publicized events.
Kelsey getting the snap.
NFL stars Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow all have their houses broken into last football season while they were on the field. And earlier this year, actors Nicole Kidman and Brad Pitt's homes in Southern California were separately burglarized. In Pitt's case, video shows a door boarded up after authorities say his home was ransacked. Now, with two more celebrities targeted, the break-ins underscoring the troubling price of fame.
And this is not just about celebrities. Security experts say this should serve as a reminder that the more you share about your home on social media, the bigger target you may become. It's important, even if you're not a celebrity, to be mindful of just how much your home and your belongings you're sharing. It's also a good idea to invest in a security system. Of course, lock your doors, prevent yourself from becoming the victim of a crime of opportunity. Savannah.
All right, Steve Patterson, thank you.
In Mexico, protests are erupting in the capital over crime and corruption in the country, and they're being spearheaded by Gen Z demonstrators who are taking to the streets and clashing with police outside the home of Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. NBC's George Solis has more on this.
There are growing questions into a surge of youth-led protests taking place across major cities in Mexico. The demonstrations reaching a fever pitch over the weekend as some hooded protesters tore down fences around the National Palace, home to President Claudia Sheinbaum. Images from the clashes show riot police using tear gas and smoke bombs. Trying to calm the crowds, seen here kicking the fence and throwing rocks at officers. Mexico City's public safety secretary saying the protests left at least 120 injured, 100 of them officers, some who were taken to the hospital. The rallies organized by Generation Z Mexico, referring to the demographic group of people born between 1997 and 2012. This 16-year-old injured during the protest telling Telemundo, people are dying, people are disappearing. For it to get to the point where minors are here protesting, it's because the country is horrible. Protesters using a popular symbol, the pirate flag from the anime One Piece, seen in Gen Z protests around the globe, including ones in Nepal and Madagascar, which ended in the ousting of heads of state. This protester saying the Gen Z groups organized themselves on Discord. While President Sheinbaum saying this week the protests didn't arise organically with the youth, but were part of a $90 million campaign by her opponents. But back on the streets, this young man saying the movement isn't affiliated with any party, just an ideology for a better Mexico. The unrest fueled by recent violence, including the death of Carlos Manzo, a mayor who was assassinated in public during a Day of the Dead celebration earlier this month, known for declaring war on the cartels and his criticism of the federal government for lack of action. Wearing cowboy hats in his honor. This protester saying she is seeking justice for his death and all those who have lost their lives and their property at the hands of criminals.
Our thanks to George Solis for that report. Despite the protests, a recent poll finds the approval rating of Mexico's president still remains high at around 70%.
Coming up, President Trump's ongoing immigration crackdown could partially be to blame for a steep drop in students who flock to America from other countries.
But could our economy take a hit too? We're talking to one education expert next. We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a new poll about the recent assassination of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk.
NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor is in Washington with more on that and other D.C. headlines for us. Sahil, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. We begin today in politics with a new NBC News poll showing that 61% of American voters said they feel extreme political rhetoric was an important contributor to the recent killing of the conservative activist Charlie Kirk. That includes majorities of Republicans, of independents, and of Democrats who said extreme rhetoric played a role. Another 28% said they thought it was an incident caused by one disturbed person, while 4% said it was a mix of both. In Indiana, State Senator Greg Good became the victim of a swatting incident merely hours after President Trump attacked him and others in the party for refusing to redraw the state's congressional map to give the GOP an advantage over Democrats in the 2026 midterm elections. That's according to the lawmaker and the local sheriff. Swatting is the act of issuing a false police report designed to intimidate a victim with a law enforcement response. Trump had pressured Indiana Republicans to knock out Democratic House seats in order to, quote, keep the majority at all costs, end quote. And back here in Washington, the Supreme Court says it will hear a case involving asylum claims this term about whether a person who stopped on the Mexican side of the U.S. border with Mexico is considered a person that arrives in the United States under the Immigration and Nationality Act. The parson carries weighty implications because the law permits anyone who arrives in the U.S. to apply for asylum and at least have their case reviewed by an immigration officer. An appeals court has said that asylum seekers are considered to have arrived in the U.S. when they present themselves to a border official, regardless of which side of the border that took place on. And that is a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Guys?
Thank you, Sahil. Well, on the education front, high schools and universities across the U.S. are seeing a sharp drop in new students enrolling from other countries.
That information comes from a preliminary report from the Institute of International Education, a nonprofit that encourages foreign study. It revealed higher education institutions saw a 17% decline in new international student enrollment this fall. 825 schools were surveyed. More than half reported enrollment drops. Experts say the drop is largely due to issues stemming from the Trump administration's immigration crackdown.
Well, for more on this, we are joined now by Jonathan Collins. He's an assistant professor of political science and education at Teachers College at Columbia University. Jonathan, great to have you with us. Good morning.
Good morning,
Thanks
Savannah.
for being in studio. So these enrollment declines are actually the biggest non-pandemic, so if you take what happened in 2020 out, drops that we've seen in more than a decade. What's happening at college campuses?
This is devastating. So essentially what we're seeing, both at the K through 12 level and at higher ed, are pretty steep drops. Now, on the surface, the numbers may seem relatively small. So you're talking about 7-8% drops, but they're concentrated in specific colleges and universities that have enormous immigrant population enrollments. And so there are some colleges and universities that are seeing drops north of 10, 20, 30%.
Wow.
I mean, this is having major implications for not only the colleges and university campuses, but the infrastructure, what they can actually provide to student bodies.
Let's talk about those implications. A separate report published yesterday estimated the U.S. economy would lose more than $1 billion because we have fewer international students. Talk about the role these students play in our economy.
Right. The operative word there is play. That's not what these students are here to do. They're not here for fun and games. They are here to learn and to work. They are a vital part of our economy, of our labor force. You're talking about not just working class jobs, but you're talking about people who are going into technology jobs, people that are going to be creating the next sort of like innovations that are responsible for, the American tech sector, for even thinking about industries like real estate and development and what we're doing with community building. The range of opportunities that are being taken away from our immigrant workforce is going to have major implications on our economy that's already reeling.
We're also actually seeing this, I understand, at public schools. It's not just at the collegiate level, and that's happening across the U.S. How does that impact the future of our public school system?
Well, that's the thing that I'm very concerned with. You talk about our K-12 public school system. This is not just a system designed to educate kids. Schools do everything. They're providing meals for kids who need them. They're providing mentors and sources of support. Think about your very first teacher and the impact that they had on you, on your life. Imagine that teacher being taken away, right? And what the impact would be for you for the rest of your life. And so now we're going to have kids who are not only being deprived of what you get from having access to a K through 12 school, but they're losing access to a K through 12 community. And I think there's going to be longitudinal effects that we won't even see until maybe even years from now. This is bad.
That is one of the major effects, especially I'm thinking of the students who want to come to America to learn. What is it they're missing out on by not being able to come here? What's the impact for that?
Well, America is still the land of opportunity. And when you deprive kids in education, you're closing off the primary door that gets us there, right? The American model is very simple. You come, you learn, you work, and you prosper, right? If you take the learn out of the equation, the prosperity is not going to come. And it's not just individual prosperity that suffers, it's societal prosperity. We are the best versions of ourselves when we're educating our population en masse.
Jonathan Collins, really important conversation, fascinating, and really good to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Coming up, artificial intelligence isn't just for computers or cars.
When Morning News Now returns, how America's farmers are employing the new tech in fields across the nation, sowing a hands-free solution to some growing problems in the agriculture industry. That is next. Stay with us. Welcome back. As retailers gear up for the holiday shopping season, there is a record shift happening with seasonal hires.
Yeah, the National Retail Federation says the number of those hires could hit the lowest we've seen in 15 years. Meanwhile, as companies hire fewer holiday employees, of course, more Americans are looking for temporary work. According to Indeed, holiday job searches were up 27% in September.
Caleb Silver joins us now with more on this. He is the editor-in-chief at Investopedia. Caleb, good to have you with us. So let's start with the most important question. Why? Why are we seeing fewer holiday workers hired?
Right. Cost efficiency and cost control. This is what these companies want. They're trying to make their gross margins, their profit margins here in the critical fourth quarter. We're going to get some spending. The National Retail Federation estimating that we're going to spend over $1 trillion in holiday shopping alone this season, but they're trying to get by with less. And companies have the upper hand compared to a couple of years ago where companies were actually giving out bonuses to get people to jump on for seasonal work. Right now, they're doing more with less.
Which companies are we seeing really slash these workforces?
Well, we've already seen cuts in companies like Forever 21. They closed 215 stores. Hudson Bay's liquidating all of its stores. But even in the big retailers, the Macy's of the world and others, they're getting by with what they have right now. They're estimating that they're only going to hire 265,000 to 365,000 workers. That's about 2-3% less than last year. And there's been a lot of retail cuts, too, already this year, about 75,000 so far.
Obviously, this is concerning for anyone who relies on these holiday jobs, whether it's for a second job to make a little extra money or it's the time of the year they usually decide to work. But it also really is just has an impact on all consumers, right? Talk about that.
Yeah, because a lot of people who are looking for that seasonal work use this extra money either to buy gifts or to get by week after week. As we know, a lot of people are taking on second jobs, so they depend on this. And usually you can expect retailers to add to their staff. It's like the Christmas tree going up around Thanksgiving. This always happens. But this year, we're going to see a much more muted hiring picture for those seasonal workers. And companies are going to see if they can get by with less. And if they can, expect this trend to continue.
Actually, this year, we're also expected to see holiday shopping sales crack the $1 trillion mark. That would be the first time ever. That's according to the National Retail Federation as well. How's that possible? Is this like because things cost more, this is what it is, or are people spending more?
You nailed it. Things cost more, so we're probably going to spend more, but also the wealthy are driving a lot of the spending. And where do the wealthy spend, especially around the holiday season? On experiences. So if you look at plane tickets, if you look at hotel destinations, a lot of those are sold out on the high end. And we're hearing it from the airlines and even from the credit card companies with the big rewards. Front of the plane is stuffed. Luxury hotels are doing just fine, but the lower end, middle to lower, not as strong.
I feel like with fewer workers, we might have to be a little more patient, perhaps, in some of the places where we're shopping or where we're going this year.
Absolutely. Be patient and be nice to those people in the mall. They are working hard, and there's going to be a lot of demand and a lot of foot traffic, as there always is. We're really good at spending, so we'll figure out a way as Americans to make sure we do our holiday spending. But these companies are going to get thinner. They've already reduced a lot of their white-collar staff. They're probably going to do that with some of their retail staff going in through this holiday season, and then we'll see what happens in 2026.
That will teach us all the holiday lesson of patience.
Patience.
Caleb Silver, thank you.
We've got more money headlines now. One MLB team owner's shares of the Las Vegas Sphere are up for sale.
NBC's Emily Lorsch joins us with that and other Wall Street headlines. Emily, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Savannah, New York Mets owner Steve Cohen's hedge fund has sold 85% of its stake in Sphere Entertainment, which includes the Las Vegas venue and MSG Networks. The billionaire's firm offloading more than 1 million shares as the stock surged 91% this year, according to an SEC filing. The Sphere's jump follows major debt cuts and strong sales for its new AI-powered Wizard of Oz experience. And Abhir Chaudhry, who helped create the iPhone Air, has left Apple after 6 years to join an AI startup. His exit adds to a wave of turnover that's reshaped Apple's design group, with Jeff Williams, the longtime chief operating officer who oversaw the design team, leaving the tech giant last week. The design group will now report directly to CEO Tim Cook as Apple prepares a second-generation iPhone Air for 2027. Plus, a new analysis shows past due utility balances jumped nearly 10% in the past year as monthly energy bills climbed 12%, according to the think tank The Century Foundation and the group Protect Borrowers. Since consumers typically prioritize these costs, it's a potential sign families are falling behind on other payments, too. This comes as President Trump faces voter frustration over high costs as he promotes energy-hungry AI data centers. So some struggles there potentially for families as we hit the holiday season.
Yeah, and as we head into the winter and we need that heat. All right, Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, there's a fascinating wave of new technology that's changing the way that America's farmers grow your food. Get this, AI-operated driverless tractors are plowing a handful of fields across our nation's heartland, with one major farming giant promising a nationwide rollout next year. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa dug into this state-of-the-art shift, and she joins us now with the details. Hey, Maggie, this is fascinating. Good morning.
It is fascinating. Good morning. Yeah, the farmer who owns, but clearly was not driving, that tractor calls this the future of farming. And this morning, equipment powerhouse John Deere argues AI could fill a crucial gap on farms nationwide. Each fall across America's heartland, countless fields are toiled by farmers and their tractors. Or in this case, just the tractor. That's insane. There's no one driving that.
There's no one driving it.
Mike and Betsy Rowland own West Bureau Farms in central Illinois, one of at least 18 states where farmers this year are testing state-of-the-art AI tractor technology. A rural response, perhaps, to the self-driving cars increasingly spotted in major cities. Here, Mike and Betsy start their high-tech tractor from an iPhone. Oh my gosh. And save hours of work.
Over the weekend, I set it loose on the field, and then I went home, did some laundry, went and got groceries.
Before, it was you or me running this thing at 9, 10, 11, midnight, and you're exhausted. This can run by itself, and I can go home and go to sleep.
The tech, courtesy of agriculture giant John Deere, who's planning a nationwide rollout next year.
This has cameras mounted 360 degrees around the roof of the cab.
The massive machine navigates using satellites and cameras.
Ooh. See, there you go.
That is jarring.
Yeah.
That stop it when they spot possible obstacles. The goal, to address deeply rooted problems helping drive up food prices, including a mounting labor shortage and an aging industry. The average American farmer is 58 years old.
They can actually let technology operate the tractor while, Betsy, Mike, others in their operation focus on maybe higher value tasks.
Mike and Betsy add this innovation hasn't replaced any jobs on their farm, just offered breathing room during the busy harvest.
This is the future of farming. I mean, it
This
truly
is the future of farming.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, obviously they have their take. They do admit, though, Mike and Betsy, that other farmers in their area have come to watch the self-driving tractor do its thing, and they're skeptical. They're worried about all the things that everybody worries about with AI, including replacing jobs. So it's not a monolith within the industry. And actually, also, there's a battle around this brewing, particularly in California, where, for instance, state regulations right now currently prohibit self-driving farm equipment. So this is by no means a guarantee, and kind of how big a factor, how common a factor this becomes in growing our food, guys, basically remains to be seen. But it was a fascinating day, Savannah.
Oh, absolutely. Really interesting. Maggie, thank you so much.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.